Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Grille 15 and why I think this tank is now one of the better tier 10 tank destroyers, and why Crew 2.0 has maybe made this tank a little bit broken. What do I mean? Well, let's have a look. So the Grille in itself is a tank destroyer that packs a nice amount of DPM, quite nice penetration, but has some questionable gun handling that isn't actually as good as it should be on paper. So what do I mean? Well, base DPM is 2,600. You slap a rammer on just in the slot, 2,900. So you have just less than 3,000 DPM. That is lovely. That is, you're pushing to some of the better DPMs of tier 10 tank destroyers with that. You've got 750 alpha, so you're packing a really quite nice alpha damage. You have lovely penetration values. 279mm standard, 334 gold is lovely. You'll pen most things reliably at tier 10 with that, apart from the heat, struggling against the thickest plates of super heavies. On paper, you have great gun handling, and we'll see why maybe on paper it's good, in practice it's not. 1.44 seconds aim time is really nice. 0.26 dispersion should be lovely. However, the Grille suffers from an issue with its dispersion in the fact that on paper it's good, in practice it's not, because its soft dispersion factors, so the ones down here, aren't actually as good as they should be. So when you move, on the move, you have 0.26 dispersion added to this. However, your dispersion on traversing the turret, and remember, the Grille has a turret, so when you are not straight aimed at your opponent and you're having to track an opponent moving, you have 0.4 dispersion. So you can see the issue there, that this isn't actually 0.26 on paper, as it is on paper, as it is in practice, because that's only when you are aiming straight at an opponent and you are not moving your turret, your tank, or anything. When you actually try to track a tank, 0.4. There are a number of things we can do to mitigate that, so let me show you the setup that I run on this tank. So I run Bond Rammer, Experimental Turbo, tier 3, and then a Bond Improved Aiming. That makes this tank lovely. It does a number of things to these dispersion factors. You can't run V-stabs on a tank destroyer. So you do kind of have to accept that you can't massively improve these soft dispersion factors, which is what a V-stab would do. However, through crew skills, through this experimental turbo, and through some of the field modifications, you can begin to have a positive impact on these dispersion factors. So with my setup, I managed to get the DPM to just over 3,000. I get the reload down to under 15 seconds. My dispersion at 0.24 on paper. And then my dispersion factors, with the turret traverse being the most important one, down to 0.38. That's really quite nice. Alongside that, we've also had a nice positive impact on the speed. We've, got 65 forwards now instead of 60. So we can kind of begin to, instead of play this tank on the back line, so as far away from your opponents as possible, which is, as I said, kind of a little bit of a struggle to do because its dispersion in practice isn't actually as good. I kind of want to be mid-range with this tank. Having the turbo allows me to take a position aggressively, but also run away from the position when I need to. And that's the thing with the Grille. You have to know when to go to a position, do two shots, but then also when to run away and not get greedy. Some people will say, could you not run a hardening if you're doing that? You could. However, I feel you need the rammer, you need the improved aiming, and the turbo, as I said, is a must. So what do you drop? That's the question from that point onwards. So, the other thing that I think that has made, and it's Crew 2.0 here, that has made the Grille simply just lovely to play nowadays, is the crew skill Perfect Charge. Well, what Perfect Charge does is it increases your shell velocity by 10%. So the base AP shell velocity for the Grille is 1200. We put Perfect Charge on, it is now 1332. So we gain 132 meters a second shell velocity. And when you are kind of approaching the 1300s in terms of shell velocity, you're lovely. Like 1300 plus shell velocity is really nice, and especially when you have these issues with the turret traverse, being able to have a faster shell means you need to lead less. So it means you can get away without traversing your turret as much. So you can kind of see how the combination of a couple of pieces of equipment and Crew 2.0 begins to start to mitigate a number of issues the Gorilla faces. But in terms of heat penetration now, because obviously that is going to be your one you're shooting at range, because it doesn't lose penetration over range. You have 900 base shell velocity. That is really quite painful, and you will feel that, especially when you are shooting at range. However, you run perfect charge, you now have 1,000 meters per second shell velocity. That is a significant difference. Every 50 meters a second you gain underneath 1,000 meters a second, you will feel that noticeably. That is a noticeable difference to your shell velocity. And having 1,000 with 334 heat, obviously heat doesn't lose its penetration over range. With 750 alpha, it's just lovely. I find it works really, really well. And I'm going to show you a replay in a second of me on Westfield just demonstrating how this equipment makes this tank really nice to play at a medium range, how the crew skills contribute to having a really effective gun, and how just the whole package comes together to make a tank that is really enjoyable to play. The gun is not as frustrating as it has a stereotype to be, and it's just great. So, let's get right into that replay. Here we are on Westfield, and this is a lovely matchup for the Grille 15, right? You've got quite a few tank destroyers. You've only got one light tank. I'm fighting against an RHM. My team has a Manticore. There's a couple of heavy tanks, slower heavy tanks, which means that the Northern Brawl on the BCD line is probably going to progress quite slowly, which gives me the confidence to take into what is a quite aggressive position to take a Grille too. If I have gone straight to the mid-ridge, I have a Manticore in front of me who is going to be spotting the medium tank cross, as you can see. And this is where you want to be in your Grille, right? With the equipment that I said, with, that perfect charge, we can sit here and we can just give our Manticore an absolute lovely game in terms of spotting. Because at the end of the day, the Grille is quite a sneaky tank, right? It has a good camo rating. So I'm pretty confident to sit here. I can peek, unspotted, shoot, get spotted, fall back into a safe position, and just repeat. Because remember, this tank has over a 10-second reload. But every single time I peek back into reload, I get unspotted and repeat. And you're going to see that. And you will see here, this is a prime example of how the perfect charge allows me to kind of lead my shot, aim it ahead of the 1-to-1B, not have to drag. So I'm not having to drag my reticle across to follow the 1-to-1. I can aim in front of where he's going to drive, and then I can shoot, which gives me less of a issue with this tank's dispersion factors. As I said, that 0.4 or the 0.38 that I bring it down to dispersion soft factor, when you move your turret, you don't have that issue when you have the perfect charge and you shot really nicely. So, we are literally 2 minutes into the game. I have 3k damage. And you will see how this game progresses and how the Grille can just pick up damage really quickly with its 750 alpha, 3000 DPM. And if you can do everything possible to mitigate and improve this tank's dispersion factors, you will hit shots like that, and you will find yourselves picking up the damage really quickly. This tank scales, and you can see there, I'm having to, slightly traverse my turret to follow the Grille. But it didn't bloom out massively. I didn't have the issue of my reticle just going like a pineapple, which it does. There you go. You can see it there as I'm having to traverse my turret. You'll see the reticle just spike out, spike out, spike out. But because this tank has really quick aim time as well, it spikes out, but then it aims back in really quite quickly. It's just dealing with when it does spike out, what do you do? And that shot right there is a prime example of how the Grille can be accurate when you can just straight aim at a tank. You're not having to move your hull, move your turrets, move anything. You can just sit there and aim, feather the shot, and find it. And that is what the Grille is lovely for. And, you know, the gun can still be a little bit unpredictable, right? Look, it's not going to be perfect. However, it can and it will hit ridiculous shots like this. And yes, that was a lucky shot. However, I felt confident in taking that snapshot because the Grille has ridiculously quick aim time. And I felt confident that because I wasn't having to traverse my turret and I gave it, you know, half a second to aim in, that the shot would go in the general direction of where I aimed. Unfortunately, it did. And we're going to take a little blind shot into here at the Jagdpan 3100. And I feel confident in doing it again because this tank is just, you know, it's got the camo, it's got the alpha, it's got the DPM. At the end of the day, what more do you want on a tank destroyer, really? Personally, I can't think of anything else I would want on a tank destroyer. This thing is like the STRV without the perfect accuracy, in a sense. Obviously, the STRV has significantly more DPM. I fell in love with this tank, right? I've recently just free marked it. This is one of my games that I played towards the end of my free mark. You know, I did 4.3k DPG in this tank, which is now my new highest DPG. I'm quite proud of it. It's one of the reasons I'm making this video. But I really did fall in love with this tank whilst I was doing it, and it was such a comfortable experience. And I didn't find myself molding excessively at missing shots. I didn't find myself having to do that because I found that if you accept that, yes, maybe 1 in 10 shots is going to be a little bit derpy because that is the nature of this tank's dispersion factors, and you can kind of understand why that shot missed. Oh, I traversed my turret, it bloomed out, it was a chancy shot. And if you accept and understand that that is an issue with this tank, you can kind of mitigate it in the sense that if you are having to traverse your turret, and I don't know what the TVP is doing here, if you can kind of know you've got to traverse your turret and then shoot, can you, instead of maybe taking that shot straight away, can you maybe give it another 1.5 seconds to aim in? Do you have to take that shot right then and there? That's the kind of questions that I would ask, and that's the kind of stuff that I started doing with the Grille. You know, first few games I kind of got used to the tank, and I kind of realized this tank can be absolutely beautiful, like in this game. And as you can see here, I am heavily chasing the 10k damage, and I will break it to you, I didn't get it. I got 9.7k. I hit a slightly high roll blind shot on the Jagdpan 3100 over in that direction. However, a couple of things didn't quite go my way to get the 10k. This TVP losing his HP, 430U losing his HP. But I kind of chose this game because it really does demonstrate everything I was talking to you about the Grille 15, how it can be a lovely tank if you just accept and understand what its limitations are, and you do everything you possibly can outside of the game for equipment, crew skills, build modifications, and inside the game in terms of just game knowledge and game awareness to mitigate them weaknesses. You can do really, really nice performances like this. And if you have the Grille and you struggle in it or you don't enjoy it, give it a go. Try my equipment setup, try my crew skill suggestion, and see how it gets on. Do let me know down in the comments, did you like this new style of video? Have you got the Grille? Do you agree with me? Have you tried it like this? Because I would definitely recommend it. And I will see you all again very soon.